All right, everybody. Long time no see. Looking forward to talking today about optimizing AI. So, Google Educator Groups, it's being kind of reformed a little bit. There's some initiatives to make things a little bit better for people out there. So, stay tuned in 2025. Google Educator Groups worldwide is actually undergoing some changes here. Really excited about that. So, it's been a while since we've done something with Google Educator Groups Asia Pacific. And we're planning our big event for sometime in the year. Normally, it's at the beginning of the year. But this year, we're going to put it somewhere else in the year when it seems like it's a little bit better for everyone. But we do always want to kick off the year with something in January. So this is, the this is our event here. We're, it's Ignition 25, Ignition EDU 25. And so we've got some presentations in Tagalog or Filipino, if you will, Hindi, English, and that kind of thing. So anyway, we hope what we've got to present. I see Eric there. Hey, Eric, it's good to see you, pal. Any ideas that you have here, please throw them out there. Eric is also a very, he's a tech guru kind of guy in the university field here in Japan, down in Kyoto. And any ideas that he has or links, please have a look in the comments. But without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get rolling here because you're not here to listen to me talk about myself. All right, so got a little thing coming up there with Chrome, but let me share my entire screen here. Not going to be sharing any audio really, so we don't need a few other things here. Boom, doing this on my own as usual, folks. So, and I've got my phone going here, so if you have any comments, either you're now in real time, like Eric, good to see you, by the way, again. And or even after the broadcast, please put them in there because I do check back every once in a while. So this is optimizing artificial intelligence, and this is mostly for teachers and students. But I do want to go through a few things that I think are important in terms of understanding AI. I'm going to focus on using Gemini today, Google's Gemini, but ChatGPT, Magic School, a whole pile of other AI suites or platforms. These kind of things actually do apply. All right. So first, my name's Nate Gildart. I teach at Nagoya International School here in Japan, right in between Osaka and Tokyo. I do educational technology consulting on the side, but my real thing is I teach diploma program history and middle years program individuals and societies. But I love using tech in my teaching practice and personal life, and that's why I'm here. So I'm not going to go through what this session is in detail, but today what we are doing is talking about how we can use AI to make our lives a little bit easier, a little bit more efficient, but also being authentic, right? We want to be careful not to rely on AI to do inauthentic work, right? Do our work for us. It's just ways to help us be a little bit more efficient and maybe even more creative. So first, though, we are going to talk about AI and what does it mean, how it works, a little bit about AI and the law, and then we're going to spend more time on strategies for teachers that you might use, some strategies you might use with your students. For my history and INS classes, I do make an effort to teach my students how to use AI for the forces of good, not for copying and pasting something that the AI puts together. If we do have time, I'll show you a few quick and playful things. And then, we probably don't have time for question and answer. But if you have any questions, like I said, please throw them in there on the phone. All right. So first off, AI, what is it and how does it really work? And you hear the term artificial intelligence all the time, but do we really know what it means? All right, so here we go. Basically, AI, the ones that we use in education for the most part, they're called LLMs, large language models. And essentially what that means is that the computer, right, the program, the algorithm, it can take it can take data and turn it into regular language, right? It can process tasks using natural human language and in obviously different kinds of languages as well, right? And it's trained through data sets to do this. Things like translation, you've used your translation apps on your phone, for example, right? Google Translate or any of these translation extensions and apps and that, well, they use AI to actually do that, right? A lot of them, especially, most of them now. Creative writing, you can use AI for making, like poems and scripts and things that you might use for classroom activities. But AI can be used for generating emails, writing music, which is a controversial one, myself being an abysmal musician. there's a lot that you can do in terms of creativity, but again, that's a slippery slope, and there's a lot of gray area and lines that you might cross. Answering questions, getting quick answers. I really do believe that some people are going to be, well, we're probably going to be using AI more to find quick answers like we normally would with Google search or Yahoo or Bing or that kind of thing. I think that's going to happen. Hey, Teresa Jennings. All right. Good to see you, Teresa. All the way in Canada. What are you doing awake at this time? Bummer I didn't get to see you when the family was back in Halifax. Anyway, back to this. So answering questions, I think we are going to see people using AI more than, say, Google search. Condensing long pieces of text, I'll show you a way that you can do that a little bit later. And again, for efficiency and that kind of thing, there's a lot of different ways. So first, let's look at some terms. AI. Artificial intelligence is basically computers doing tasks that usually require human thought, right? Human intelligence. And of course, we know that AI can do it much more quickly. Maybe not perfectly, but quickly. It understands and communicates in human language, and it can actually identify objects. When you get those pop-ups when you have to do, 2 or 3 step authentication, right? Is this really you and you're not a robot? It says like click on all the squares that have bicycles or traffic lights or buses or something. Basically, that's identifying objects within visual data, right? A data set, well, that's what we use to train the AI, right? You need data sets to actually train it. AI is trained, right? Generative AI, it is an important term to understand because this means that you're creating something new that has never existed before. Every time you go into, Gemini or ChatGPT, you could use the same prompt 5 times, but you are going to get something different every single time, even if it's just a few words or nuance. So generative AI just means that something new is made based on the input. And remember, your input it matters. The better and more accurate the input, the better quality of the output, right? The result. GPT, this actually means generative, pre-trained transformers. So, ChatGPT, that's just a name. GPT is actually something that people that, have created AI and worked with AI, they use that term all the time. So generative means that you're creating something new that has never existed. Pre-trained, hopefully it's obvious that it means it's been trained using different data sets, which remember can be biased. And then transformer, it means it's actually transforming this data into human language. That's what that means. Okay, and just to let you know, basically we can get things done more quickly, right? Productivity, cognitive load, right? Wow. I do feel that compared to 20 years ago, I'm just thinking so much more and in different ways. And that's a good thing. Keeps me young, keeps me active, but also cognitive overload can be a problem. So AI can actually help us with that. You can see on the right side here, that little thing is actually something I created using Gemini based on inputs. It saved me a bit of time in terms of coming up with what slides am I going to, what am I going to focus my slides on for this presentation? Actually, when I was developing it ages ago, it's a little bit different now, but I actually used AI to help me organize my thinking for this workshop or this presentation. I do think there's potential for creativity with AI as well. And again, we got Teresa and Eric at least watching, plus about 8 other people. If you have ideas for how AI can be used for the forces of good and how AI might be taught to students, please put them in there. Post them in the chat. I've got my my phone going here. I don't have anyone moderating, so I can't broadcast your comments, unfortunately. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the law. We're about 10 minutes in here, so I want to get to some practical ideas very soon. Gemini, for example, it's not directly subject to certain laws, right? So if you look at the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act in the United States, now, the reason I bring up the US is because Google is an American-based company, and a lot of stuff they do, yes, it's going to have to bend to or comply with laws in different countries and jurisdictions, meaning states and provinces, prefectures in Japan. But there's other things that impact what Google does as well. So when it comes to Gemini, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, believe it or not, Gemini is not directly subject to it. It's not subject to COPPA, which is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. That had a big change with YouTube in particular. Well, Google in general, but and any other technology platform. a number of years ago, 6, 7 years ago, maybe 8. But Gemini is not directly subject to that. And it's not subject to state privacy laws in particular. But the question is why? Well, basically, regulations are designed to protect personal information when we're talking about students and minors in like an educational setting. And I say that extends to people who work in an educational setting as well. So basically, Gemini and the use of AI, it's subject to laws within the state, like privacy laws and that kind of thing. But Gemini itself is not directly subject to it. It's a matter of how you at school use Gemini. That's the important thing. So FERPA and COPA, if AI is used in educational settings, you have to adhere to the certain laws that are about privacy and information protection, right? And again, state privacy laws, there might be something a little bit different in one state or province or prefecture compared to another. You will have to comply with those jurisdictional laws. So if your school or your business or you personally, you're using AI, you've got to comply with those laws. Teresa's here. I've worked with a teacher last week who used AI to create picture prompts for students in writing. She was able to easily customize prompts to the individual student interest. That's a great example of how you can use AI. The only thing I'd add to that is I hope that they said to the students, hey, I created these with AI, by the way. I didn't spend hours searching for them. But that's a great way to use AI because you created your own image. Thanks for sharing that, Teresa. The teacher created their own image that was tailored to the student that they were going to use in the class. It's not for public consumption. There's no privacy laws being broken here, let alone copyright. Great example. And yeah, there's lots of stuff out there with Canva, Adobe, etc., where you can create images, including ChatGPT and Gemini. Not nearly as good as the other ones, though. All right. So another thing, the responsibility for compliance, getting back to the law, it lies with the organization or individuals using the AI. So I mentioned that before, and just want to reinforce that. So if you're a school leader, you want to make sure that you're complying with the law, right? Here's a little bit of, here's some terms, some things that you need to think about. When we talk about compliance, there is data privacy. Ways you can do this and ensure that data privacy is protected. It's data minimization. Only collect the necessary data that you need. Only process necessary data that you need. Data security, spend the money, get good security. Be robust so that you don't have hackers, breaking into your system. This is, you see this happening even with major companies. You see it happening with local governments. Just spend the money and get good security. Data retention as well. You have to have policies for when and how you retain data and when you release it or delete it, right? Consent. Now, how can you comply with consent and laws? So informed consent, basically, if you're going to collect people's data when they use AI, right? I'm going to tell you something with Gemini in a moment here. If you're collecting their use of the AI and any of their information, you got to let them know. Or you have to have them sign a waiver that allows you to do that. Parental consent as well. You must get parental consent for collecting data with students using any kind of AI and I would argue other platforms and software in school. That's required by COPA if you're American, and any other jurisdiction, they're going to have similar laws like this. So you want to make sure you're complying with that. Informed consent, letting them know, and then parental consent, getting that parental consent. And the last one here, transparency. You should be giving privacy notices. Hey, everyone, we're going to be deleting this information at this point in time. Hey, everyone, we're collecting this information. Also, though, people should be allowed to access their data that you have collected. If somebody, for some reason, says, yeah, I want to see what data of mine you've collected and how I've been using AI in your institution, in your school, for example, you have to let people know what you're doing, and you have to allow them to change that. And that's that second one, data access and correction. You have to allow people to access and change any of their personal information. And I'm just scratching the surface here, of course, right? So you have to understand that when it comes to Gemini in particular, I'm not sure about other platforms, but they probably do. Human beings actually do look at your chats, the conversations that you have with Gemini, with your AI, and they might read and annotate. Sorry, going a little bit too quickly here. So you have to understand that human beings are actually looking at the conversations you have with Gemini. Um, they don't collect audio conversations that you might be having with any kind of AI tool that Google has, but they do collect those conversations when it comes to any product that Google has, and you've got AI in there. Your feedback, your location, and all that kind of stuff. Be aware of that. Now, at the moment, the free edition of Gemini, it doesn't have a strong security. Well, it doesn't adhere to like the security that you would have for Google Workspace for Education or Education Plus and that kind of thing. Um, Gemini Education Premium, they have better privacy and better security features. Eventually, your private Gmail account will have that, but just keep that in mind if you're using Gemini with a free account. Again, keep posting your ideas here. Thanks again for that one, Teresa. How are you using AI in the class? So what does that mean now? Like, you got to think about that. We don't for the free, for your own private version or the free version of Gemini, you don't have a strong security and privacy. So you should keep that in mind. So basically in schools, you can choose to turn Gemini on or Gemini off. We've got them on for our teachers, but not for our students yet at our school. It's on by default if you're 18 or older with your private account, but you can turn that on. You have to produce a responsible use policy that addresses AI. So you could have a separate AI policy if you want. We're kind of doing that at my school right now. It might be more efficient to actually just include in your responsible use policy, some kind of, an addendum to the use of AI. And this is important, right? I mean, people can create deep fakes and things like that. We've already seen students taking students' images and then creating silly videos with them without their permission. That's irresponsible use, right, of AI. So, you want that policy in there, which, we at my school don't have at the moment. At least it's not well developed. We do have behavior policies that would address things, but anyway, I recommend you get explicit with putting that into policy at your school. Here's another thing too. Teachers, staff, your students, parents, people need to be taught about AI, like what I'm doing today, and how to use it for the forces of good, how to protect your privacy and your data and that kind of thing, which, I mean, that we should have been doing for decades anyway. But how AI is used at your school and the ways you can use it properly and responsibly, we have to teach not only students, but our whole community, right? All right. So now let's bring it down. Let me get a drink here. I've got Sean. Hey, Sean, it was nice chatting with you yesterday online, all the way from Sarawak in Malaysia. Very, very cool. I love Malaysia. Been there about half a dozen times. Looking forward to going back. So Sean, Teresa, Eric, hey, why don't you share with us some ways that you're using AI? Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually jump in and out here. Here's a Google Doc. Let me just actually post this in the comments here on YouTube. That way you can access it later and play around with this for your on your own. This is obviously online. It's a demo thing. So what I'm going to do, let me just escape here. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put it in YouTube. I know you can see this. Isn't it kind of fun looking at the comments here? Hands-on document. This is all stuff. It's not secret. So what we're going to do is, now let me just show you how this kind of works. All right. So if prompts for teachers strategies and then prompts for student strategies, these are just some ways that you might want to think about using AI for the forces of good and teaching your students, right? So if you click on this, let's see, text for presentations. This is going to give you something you can copy and paste into Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever, just to play around and see kind of how it can work. All right. But I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to kind of go in order here. So now I'm not going to do actually a slideshow. I'm going to open Gemini, excuse me. And we're going to kind of play around here. All right. So this is where the fun begins. All right. Let me just see. Yeah, okay, it's all good here. And you've got that doc. I can see people popping up. Lovely. All right. So curriculum creation and management, you could automate content, generation, for example, based on standards, outcomes, and all that kind of thing. Let's take one of these prompts, for example. This is something that, is that sample not bookmarked? Well, it's not bookmarked. Tell you what, I'm going to document generation. I'm going to go with this one here. Okay. So, for example, I was trying to get my IB students to better understand how the different grade descriptors and mark bands in IB history kind of works and put it into one document. So what I did, this is a real world sample here, right? So I started by putting in my first prompt, take grade descriptors from an IB group, then take the assessment criteria from one of the papers for the process of chatting, actually tailor that. So let's see. I am going to go with All right. Let me go with what I created here. Let's see. I'm going to take this. Okay, so these are the grade descriptors and rubric without the AI criteria. I'm going to take this and just bear with me for a moment here. And I'm going to open that up. I'm going to say blend these two documents to create new descriptors for 1 to 7 IB scale for grading. Okay, there's the first one. And now I'm going to take the mark bands here. And I'm going to put that in. Okay, and so now they're blending the two documents. Essentially, now I can take these and I can modify them and work with them a little bit on my own. And let me just pull up. Let's see. Let me show you what the and I'm not going to go through this in every step because we don't have a bunch of IB teachers out there. But essentially, this is what the final product looks like. So I've got my grade descriptors for what's called paper 1, which is scored out of 24 and then transferred to a grade out of 7. And then paper 2 and 3, 2 different exams that are scored with each essay out of 15. And then that's converted to a score of 7. Basically, these are the things that students are graded on. And I've taken the different documents in IB and through Gemini, put them down into these different descriptors, which has helped me go in and change the words. Now, that's the thing here, though. As a teacher, I had to go in and make sure that everything kind of matched up. This took me a couple of hours, but my students said that this is really helpful and really useful. So it was a good use of my 2 hours of time. All right, let me look at, let's look at the next one. That's a basic document creation kind of thing. Simplifying documents, for example. Let's go with, let me just go back up here. Document simplification. All right, so take these related concepts and simplify them for a grade 8 level. So there are a lot of key and related concepts in IB individuals and societies. So as a teacher, what I want to do is actually create, let's go with a new chat here. Notice right up here, I just click that button, I have a new chat. So I've got my prompt. It says, take the related concepts and simplify them for students at a grade 8 level. Turn them into one sentence definitions. I'll paste them below. So I'm going to put that prompt in. Notice it says, I'm ready to help you simplify those related concepts. So I've got all those concepts in this document right here. And I just want to point out, look at all these. I mean, for a grade 8 student, that is a lot. It's overwhelming. I just want one sentence for these. So I'm going to go with these ones, actually. Yeah. And see, I'm just going to kind of copy this. And I'm going to go into Gemini. I'm going to paste that. Okay, now let's see what it gives me. Look at this. I've got choice. You have to pick one thing, which means you can't have the other. So basically, this gives me a starting point where if I wanted to create a quiz in Quizlet, or if I wanted to create flashcards or something like that. I've now got these one sentence, simple definitions that I think would work for a grade 8 student, maybe grade 6 or 7. That saved me a lot of time. Now I still have to go in and check these and make sure that they really do make sense and get to the essence of each term or definition. But I've just saved myself a lot of time, right? Let's see. Is it Prisha George? Hello to you. Hey, tell us where you're from. We've got people in Kyoto, Japan, Halifax, Canada, and Sarawak in Malaysia. Very cool. All right, let me go back up here. Let me go to the top of the doc here. Yeah. Okay. So text for presentations. This one too. I know in secondary we tend to, use slides a lot. I use slides to actually do activities, not just do presentations, right? But you can save time, like if you're creating draft slides for presentations, either for faculty or for your students or whatever. If you want to summarize lengthy documents that you're going to do a presentation on, for example, let's say you've got a policy. A new policy that you're introducing to your staff and you want to shorten it down to the essence. I need 5 slides condensing this policy into the main, ideas kind of thing. Again, you have to go and edit and review and revise, but it's a starting point, right? That will save you a lot of time. All right, let's see. Let's start with this prompt right here. So I'm going to say, take this information. Now I'm going to go up here too. I'm going to create a new chat. All right, it's going to be take the following piece of text and transfer it to a 6-slide presentation with bullet points. Be sure that the main ideas are all addressed. Don't include a title slide or a concluding slide because I'm going to make that one on my own. Okay, once you provide the text, I can help you with blah, 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 which is great. Let me close this one. I don't need that. So basically, this is an essay that I've had or a piece of writing that I have. And instead of giving a piece of writing to students, I'm going to turn it into a little slide presentation. Or maybe students have written an essay or prepared something and you've asked them to create a short slide presentation on the essay they've written or the research they've done. This is the way I think students, if they take their own research and written work and put it in AI to create a slide presentation to break it down to the text, I think that's completely fine. They've already done the hard work. They've done the research. They've done the writing. And if they're going to create a slide presentation, well, it's their work that they're asking AI to summarize or shorten for you. Why not? That's what I'm doing here. I wrote all that text, and now I'm just asking AI to turn it into 6 slides. So here it is. They've given me economic factors, it's given me technological advancements, political and social factors, religious motivations. Let's see. Add one more meaning slide. Geopolitical competition. So that's given me an idea. I would never tell my students to do that because I haven't researched that myself. But you as a teacher, who knows, right? Keep telling us where you're watching from, folks. We have a number of people watching right now, so it's always fun to find out where people are, viewing from. Also, share your ideas. That's the whole point of this, right? Share your ideas with us, please. Okay, so let me go to the next one here. Now, this is something I think is a good idea. And I have done this, actually. So here's a prompt. Let's say you want to group your students, right? Maybe you're doing this even for like a staff meeting or a faculty meeting. You've got 80 people on staff and you want them to mix, right? You want early learning center, elementary, lower secondary, upper secondary, perhaps, support staff, administrative staff, all working together, right? And you want to save a bit of time by breaking people up. That's something you could do as an administrator or a workshop facilitator or whatever. In your classes, though, I teach at an international school, so we have students from all over the place, different aptitudes, different language abilities, and that kind of thing. So here I'm going to give my prompt. I need 5 groups spread as evenly as possible, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to start a new chat here. Okay. So what I want to do is make sure that no new students are in the same group, if possible, and that kind of thing. English as additional language students are spread out so they can get support from the people around them, perhaps. Okay, so this is giving me a hypothetical example, but now what I'm going to do is give them all these students. And note I've got Student O, EAL, Japanese speaker, identifies as male. Student P, Chinese speaker, does not express gender identity. So anyway, I mean, you could put in as many prompts as you want, but let me put this in. Let me see. Group 1. So I've got, let's see, 1 EAL student. I got 1, let's see, Korean, 1, we don't know their nationality, 2 Japanese, somebody's Chinese. A little bit of a diverse mix in the group here. Japanese, Korean, new student Japanese. So, okay, that one's maybe not as diverse. Might want to mix that up again. So I'm just going to ask AI to do it, right? Gemini, can you mix the nationalities a little better? See what happens here. And, maybe you don't have that, right? I mean, depending on where you live. I mean, international schools, yeah, this would happen a little bit more. And so I've just asked it, to go in and change things. And you could do that little by little and that kind of thing. All right, so now I've got, okay, so maybe in this group, actually, this class, I've got more Japanese, Korean, and Chinese students than other. But you get the idea, right? Then you get the idea. So again, for grouping students, right? Let me go down here. Let's see, we got about 28 minutes left. So we've done the time with your material, right? We did that. Tailoring groups based on variables. Brainstorming lesson ideas. I think actually that's kind of a fun one. Let me just keep scrolling through here. Summarizing the lengthy text. Which one was this now? Yeah, okay. Well, you get the idea, right? If you have a document with a lot of text, I'm a history teacher, you want to just break it down to the main points. You could use AI to help you with that, but you do have to look at it, make sure that the most important stuff is indeed there. Kind of like I showed you those that way to make the one sentence definitions of terms. You could do that too with making quizzes. So for example, let's go with make a multiple choice quiz. Let me just show you this. Making quizzes can sometimes be a bit of a pain in the butt. So create a multiple choice quiz with the following piece of text. Whenever possible, add more than one answer to a question. So I'm going to use this document right here. Same thing. I've got all the terms. Let me just go down here and I'm going to create a multiple choice quiz using this information. Okay. Okay, that hasn't done. Nope. I've got to do this again. Create a multiple choice quiz with that. And let me go back and copy that one more time. I'm going to paste all of that stuff together. And now it's going to put this together for me. All right. So which of the following best defines scarcity in economics? And then I've got my 4 choices. Now, there's the quiz. Save a bit more time. Hopefully you don't need this, but please give the answer key. Right? We are busy people, right? Sorry, I don't know what quiz you're referring to. What, the one I just had you make? You're absolutely right. My apologies. So now they bolded the correct answer kind of thing. Isn't that funny? You see that transfer, right? In the ChatGPT, right? That transferring data into human language. You're absolutely right. My apologies. I seem to have forgotten the quiz we just generated. Remember, AI is not perfect yet, right? Okay, let's keep going here. I'll give you a few more ideas. Let's see. Which one of these prompts? Okay. Now here is a way that I teach students to use AI for the forces of good. All right. Now, note here, let's say students are about to embark on learning World War I. I want them to try to figure out what they should be focusing on, right? So let me just post this here. In fact, let me come back to the slide where we've got, no, playtime. Yeah, okay. So let me just actually share this with you for one moment. Now we're getting into practical strategies for students here. There are other things in that doc you can do it, or you can use to practice along as a teacher on your own, teaching students to use AI. Here's an example, right? Now, Academic honesty is really, really important. Obviously, we as educators and adults should be doing this. Like it should just, I shouldn't even have to say this, but unfortunately I do. You want students to understand that they have to do original work, right? But AI can help us in the journey to do that, right? So we have to have students understand that AI just can make things go faster. They can help us do some thinking or organizing, but we don't want AI to be used as a crutch, right? We don't want it to do the work for us. So this is what I'm going to do is these 3 questions here, First World War, I'm going to ask one at a time. And then I'm going to suggest to students that, well, this is what you could do. You've got a topic you have to learn about that you're doing an independent study on, for example. You have to ask good questions to the AI, right? Let me just quickly go through here. Okay, these are 3 separate ones here, but let's start with this first one with the First World War, right? So what overall themes do I need to learn to understand the outbreak of the First World War? It's telling me militarism, alliances, imperialism, nationalism, MAIN. That's an acronym that's common in history, actually. And then the Balkan crisis, right? Actually that spark that actually kicked off the war. This is just giving me some basic information. This is going to help a student get focused on taking a deeper dive into learning what they need to learn. Now I'm going to ask that second question. Which history concepts are most relevant and why? And I'm going to add here, when studying World War I. This is going to give me a chance to think about the concepts I should be focusing on as I study. Several concepts are highly relevant when studying World War I, all right? Imperialism, nationalism, and this kind of thing. Okay, good. That's helped me a little bit. What did different schools of thought argue responsibility for World War I? Now we're getting into schools of historical thought, really deepening our understanding. I see Eric's posted something here, so I'll read that in a moment. And so now you see I'm looking at schools of thought. This is helping the student find out what they need to learn. It's not giving them all the answers because obviously World War I and the causes, it can't all be in this right here. It's given my students a starting point. Of course, you have to teach them how to ask good questions. Let me just address Eric here. At the Kyoto University of Foreign Studies, which some of my students graduate and go to, actually, ask them, Eric, if they're from Nagoya International School. We turned on Gemini connected to all institutional accounts in April 2024. 8,000 accounts. That is awesome. I facilitated a 3-week module onboarding, emphasis on ethical use. Beautiful. And Eric, maybe if you could share a link from Kyoto University, right? Foreign Studies, just to get it all correct there. Maybe if you could share a link that tells people how you approach that, or the policy that you have for ethical use of AI that you're using at Kyoto University for Foreign Studies. That would be awesome. And yeah, Eric, he's deep into this kind of stuff, folks. So anything he pastes or posts, have a look at. It's worthwhile. Let me just grab another one here. I'm going to go with, let's say, something more for the younger students, maybe in grade 5 or grade 6. Let's start a new chat here. You don't always have to start a new chat, but let's say we've got kids learning archaeology or, what's so-called prehistory. Prehistory is kind of a weird term, actually. Show me an image of human dwellings from around 10,000 BCE. Okay, here's one. I'm going to say, how about mammoth bones? If I don't spell things correctly, which I actually did correctly here. So now I get something else where it's looking for mammoth bones because I remembered something about mammoth bone dwellings. So now I have a couple of images that give me kind of an idea of what I might be looking at. And it also gives me the source. Notice if I click on this, it's going to take me to history.com, which gives me a little bit more it shows me where it's getting the information, which is wonderful. I'm still going to study a bit more. Let's see. So what materials were used for dwellings? Please write in the text response, right? I don't want a picture anymore. I want a text response. All right, so branches and saplings, animal skins, hides. You see how the student's getting a little bit of help here to figure out, how did people live at the time? What else do I need to research about early human dwellings? Regional variations, right? Hey, it would have been different in a place far north of the equator as opposed to the equator, or far south, right? Anyway, you can see here, this is helping students get some ideas going, Love it. Okay, finding out what you don't know. All right, and again, this is along similar lines here, but let's start with this prompt here. This was done with a grade 10 class, actually. So I'm studying the scientific revolution for a history class, and I'm unsure of the overall themes that historians usually address. I also have to understand scientific revolution in a global context. What topics, themes, and people do I need to know? And I'm just going to take out that second question. And it's going to give me some ideas, key themes that I might want to look at, right? And it gives me some of the people. What concepts? These are some concepts you should think about. Again, it's helping me think about what I need to look at. How about important women of the time? You know, women tend to get ignored in the writing of history, right? Okay, now it gives me, another list. How about non-Western white people who had an impact on science? Now that's pretty broad, right? It might actually take us back into ancient times and that kind of thing. Yeah, like Alhazen, for example, that goes back about 1,000 years. But you see how I'm starting to get some ideas, right? And I'm trying to broaden my own mind as I'm doing this, right? Okay, what do schools of historical thought say about the scientific revolution? Again, I'm starting to get ideas, right? I'm not going to get all of the information here. Let's see, some key inventions, people and places I should research. Who are some prominent? Here's one. Who are some prominent historians? That's not easy to find with a Google search. This is an example of why I think down the road people will use AI a little bit more than just Google search to find information. So now I have a list of historians that I might want to explore when I'm looking at, for example, the scientific revolution, which is also kind of a silly name, right? I've got another prompt here about Mary Shelley and Frankenstein. Let's say it's for a literature class. I want to do this one, actually, because I think it gets away from the history, even though it is history, right? So it's giving me a little bit about the historical context of the book when Mary Shelley actually wrote the book. What were her intentions about writing and publishing? Post that one in there, and it's going to give me some ideas, and it might actually give me some links. In fact, give me some sources of this information. Okay, actually, they gave me the sources right there. Okay, so, and it's giving me a few more ideas here as well, right? So, and authors' names, great. You have to understand that AI sometimes hallucinates. That's what it's called when it gives you incorrect information, but tells you it's correct. It's called an hallucination. Samia, hey, who's here in Japan as well. Hopefully we're going to see you in Nagoya on the 26th, actually, for the ETJ event. Well, I'll be doing this workshop again. Great to see you, Samia, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at Sugiyama Joshi Dai. It's going to be good. How about this? Who are some authoritative literary critics? Remember, I'm a student, right? I'm trying to figure out how do I explore the book Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, her context, the historical context, deepen my thinking about the book and why it was written and that kind of thing, and some literary critics. How about this is not in my list here, but now I'm thinking of it. What do feminist historians say about the book and her? Notice I've mistyped a few things, but that's the transfer bit. The AI can read those human mistakes. Feminist historians often offer a variety of interpretations, and so here are a few ideas that you can further your understanding, right? And again, schools of historical thought. That's another one that I put in here. Seeking feedback on draft work. Now, here's another one that I tell students to be very careful with because AI does make mistakes. Just checking the phone here. Please, if you have ideas for how you're using AI in your own practice, please put them in there. Whoops, I got to come back to YouTube here. All right. So with students, I get them to use AI to have a look at their work. So for example, I'm going to go here and let me start a new chat. So I have an essay titled The Revolutions of 1848 in Europe. To what extent did blah, blah, blah. I would like feedback on the accuracy of the structure of the essay introduction and this format. So I've got this format right here that I'm going to copy and paste in. Basically, it's the way that a student should write their introduction. And I want to, in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to copy all of this right here, including the introduction. So note I've got all of this stuff pasted because when I put it into the AI, I want it to all come in together the way I want it to be read by the machine. Okay, let's analyze the structure of the essay. Strengths of the introduction, engaging context, weakness, overly descriptive, unclear main points. So your proposed format is generally sound. Here's a slightly refined version. So it's giving you some suggestions that perhaps another human being might even do too. Remember, students have to learn how to do this on their own, though. They can't just trust the AI. You have to tell them that over and over and over again. All right, we have someone, and another teacher from Malaysia. I love it. I can't wait to go back to Malaysia. I've been to Kuala Lumpur half a dozen times. I've been to Georgetown, up in Penang, and I've been down to Kota Kinabalu in Borneo. I just love Malaysia. Nice people, great food, beautiful country, beautiful country. And I actually took a bus down to Malacca from Kuala Lumpur as well years ago. It was, wow, 20, 25 years ago. Love Malaysia. Okay, let's keep going because we still have time. I want to go through a few more. So let's say I want to keep going. All right, so now I would like AI to check my next 3 paragraphs using the Peel format, point, evidence, examples, and link. So let me just go here, and not as far as the conclusion. Do you see how I'm getting the AI to look at my essay and give me a bit of feedback on the structure? Not the content, not the spelling, not the grammar, the structure based on how my teacher told me to do it. Or taught me to do it. Not told me, taught me, right? So here it's giving me a little bit of feedback. And since we're here, let's do next. How well do the main body paragraphs align with the introduction? Let's see what it tells me. The alignment between your main body paragraphs and the introduction could be stronger. Here are the issues, right? This is actually student work, this sample I'm giving you, with their permission, not using their names. But all right, now I want to check the conclusion for accuracy. All right, so I'm pasting that in there. And let's see. Perhaps they could revise things this way, blah, blah, blah. Now this I would tell students, never copy and paste that. Just look at it for ideas and then put it, do your own writing and thinking. Now the next thing, I'm going to ask them, this is the criteria that they're going to be graded on. So I'm going to ask them to grade it based on that. What I'm going to do, though, is copy the whole darn thing. Now let's assume that I've gone and I've made my changes based on the other feedback. So now I've asked them, grade it based on the criteria that I put in. There's 3 different criteria that I'm using. 3 criterion, right? Criterion A, criterion C, and criterion D. And here are recommendations for improvement. So it's not giving me a grade. It's telling me, hey, you might want to think about improving this. Another one from Teresa here. Yes, it is getting late in Nova Scotia, isn't it? Glad it caught up. Great ideas. Start to see how AI. Hey, Teresa, let's have a chat. I'll be home in the summer again. So I'll be home a little bit longer than this last trip. So let's get together, grab a coffee, and we can chat AI as well. That'd be kind of fun. Great to see you, Teresa. Thanks for jumping in. Give my best to the family and everybody back home, the old Acadia University crowd. Class of 97, everybody. All right, let's keep going here. Okay. We've got that. We had to look at that. We had to look at these. Let's see, fine-tuning. Yeah, we've done that. Okay, I want to show you Flint, but that's a whole other workshop. I think Flint is a really cool tool to use in class lessons and activities. We don't have time for that. I would love to show you, but I encourage you to check it out on your own. Thanks, Teresa. Good night, and we'll see you in the summer. Let's see. If you choose to have a look at Flint, it really is cool. I've done this with my students with a pilot project. And we have used it now. We're using it more because I do think it's really cool. Here's some examples that you could use if you want to play with it on your own. Literatu is another one that one of our English teachers uses. Pretty cool. I'd say try it. Here are a few little things that you might want to think about. Music and audio. I do think it's fair enough to make music using AI. Another thing that's kind of fun is having create a reader's theater scripts or something like that. In fact, you know what? I believe I've got that here somewhere. I might actually just do that one with you because I do think it's fun, especially for lower grades where you want to make something interesting. Yeah, create scripts for drama. Let's see. Try this prompt here. Use the text from the hands-on prompt document. Okay, so let's start a new chat. I'll go back to that audio video one here. Please take the following text and create an historical drama. There must be 4 characters plus 1 narrator, blah, blah, blah. Here, let's expand the text. They're automatically making one here, so I'm actually going to go back in here. Yeah, let's go to the top. Summary notes, creative time. Here, let's do that. That's the one that I want. Okay, so please take the following text and create an historical drama. This is a Korean folktale called Why the Sea is Salty. That's a fun one I used to teach my students. Let me start a new chat. So I'm putting the prompt and the story together. I want my students to create a drama based on it or do a reader's theater on it. So now I've got my narrator, the king, the guard, the king, the queen. So I've got the different people. There's got to be 4 characters plus 1 narrator. And this would be a good, fun, short reader's theater where students could focus on learning the story, but also doing expressive reading and emphasis and tone and that kind of thing. That's just a way to be creative and kind of save a bit of time. Now let's go back to this stuff at the bottom here. Here's an example with Suno. This is something I think you could actually do is say, okay, students, you've learned the history, or you've learned about the book, you've learned the story, you've learned the science, you've learned the math. Now come up with a really good prompt, or actually write lyrics. What I like to do is like write a 4-stanza song, maybe without the chorus, and then me as the teacher, I'm going to put it into my Suno account, and we're going to turn it into a song. So you as students brainstorm and collaborate to do the writing. Tell me the kind of feel or music that you want. For this one, I wanted to create like an Irish feel about the Irish potato famine with a penny whistle and a violin. And I said I wanted it to be a little bit dark, but also hopeful. I wanted a penny whistle and a bowrin, an acoustic guitar, and a violin. And this is what we got. I don't know if you're going to hear it. In fact, you won't because I haven't shared that particular tab. But go ahead, click on it, and you're gonna see how it sounds. But it created this. I think it's just kind of a fun, playful thing that you could do with your students. The end of a quarter, end of a semester, where you've got a couple of classes where their attention is waning, and maybe your reports are already done, grades are in. Just kind of a fun, playful way of doing something with the stuff you've studied that might really engage the students at a time when you're not really assessing them. That's how I feel. I mean, it depends on who you are and your school rules. Check out some of the art-based stuff as well. There's some cool opportunities to use AI in Canva, for example, Adobe Express, and then other ones that are just different art-based AI programs like OpenArt AI, Magic Studio, Photo, Crayon. Check these things out. I think it's really worthwhile teaching kids how to create good inputs and then see what the output is. Remember, that's a skill too, right? If you're instructing someone to do something, the better instructions you give, the better, the more capable of achieving the task or accomplishing what you want them to do, the better that'll be. And again, too, like maybe just practice that kind of thing by giving prompts to AI, giving them instructions, the inputs, and then seeing the quality of the output, right? The better the input, the more specific and detailed it is, the better the output is going to be. Just a good chance to do that. And I think art and music would be ways to get students to kind of work on that. Teach them to be a little bit more descriptive, a little more in depth when they give instructions in a playful way, right? And say, okay, now apply that to researching an essay. Easier said than done, I'm sure. So uses for AI in brief. Content creation. Here, let me just actually blow this one up here because we're near the end here. So content creation, research and brainstorming. Again, the research, be careful with that, right? When I say doing research, it's like finding out what you need to research, not actually doing the research, finding sources for your research, finding experts for your research. That's what I mean by that. And that saves time, right? And I think with the creativity bit, it can enhance the learning experience. Also, like create a reader's theater script, create a short drama. That makes the content you're using a little bit more interesting, right? Improved communication, for example, accessibility, professional development, administrative support, student support, data analysis. There's so many different things you could do with AI. So if you can give any feedback in the comments in YouTube, that would be dandy. I don't have a form ready for you, but I do appreciate that. So I haven't got a QR code, but you can keep in touch with me at Nathan Gildart on Twitter, which I'm probably going to shut down soon and go to Blue Sky. Find me at edtechtrainer.com, Social Studies Samurai. I actually have a new one called JapaneseHistoryTrip.com if you want to look at some 360-degree videos of historical places in Japan, which is kind of fun. I'll post these in the comments just as we kind of wind up or wind down here. In fact, here, let me just copy these. I'm going to put these in the comments if you want to stay in touch. And I know I'm sharing my screen here. In fact, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm also going to share this slide deck with you, actually. Let me get the tiny URL for that right now so that you can come back to it. There's the URL shortener. Let me copy that. Woo! Let me just cancel that here. Slide deck for this session. Whoops. Now, we also have a Google form, actually, that you can fill out to get a certificate. But I haven't had a chance to get that in there. So I'm going to post that in the comments in a little bit here. So if you want to come back and get a digitally printed form that you can mail to yourself, go for it. Just come back and check the comments in a moment. Sorry, I'm a new dad, right? So I had a lot going on this morning. Let's see. One other thing too, Japanese. All right, here's another one that might be kind of fun for you. My little alter ego side project. Okay, folks, I'm going to leave it at that. Actually, that's almost 1 hour, so I'm going to say thank you for joining us. Just have a look at the comments in a moment. I'm going to pull up a form that you can fill out to get yourself a digital certificate mailed to yourself. So thanks a lot for joining. Take care. We have other sessions going on. Oh, in fact, let me just post that in there as well. There are other sessions, actually none in Bahasa, Indonesian, or Malaysian this time around. That's uncommon. Here are some other sessions that I'm going to post right there. If you go to GEG APAC at that link, Ignition, EDU 25, you're going to see things in English, in Hindi, and in Tagalog or Filipino, if you will. So enjoy your weekend. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to end the broadcast right there.